portion and for questions. So in a moment, I will be handing the controls over to our presenter. So we'll start our keynote portion of today's call featuring Ellen Lenox Smith. Ellen has emerged as a leading voice for patients living with pain in Rhode Island. Featured in local and national press accounts, Ellen brings a reasoned and compassionate perspective to the need for safe patient access to medicine. Now, Ellen lives with two rare conditions, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and sarcoidosis, both of which are presently not curable. While having a long and distinguished career predominantly in the field of education, Ellen has devoted much of her recent time to advocacy. She is a Rhode Island ambassador for U.S. Pain, is active within the Rhode Island Patient Advocacy Coalition. She's authored 2 books, and in 2006 was accepted into the connective tissue research at the National Institute of Health to help search for a cure to EDS. She's also the best mother-in-law that anyone could ask for, and yes, of course, I am being completely biased, but it is absolutely true. So it is an honor to welcome Ellen for this afternoon.
Thank you, Shana. I'm just working on pulling up the full view here. 1 second for me.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Does that show for you all? I hope. Can you see it?
Yes. Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to thank you all for this opportunity to speak to you. I'm 67 years old. I am Shana's mother-in-law. I'm a very lucky woman to have her in my life. And I've been struggling for a long time, not having a clue what was wrong with me. And it turned out that cannabis is one of the reasons I'm still around, and it was the last thing in the world I would have thought to even consider using. So we're going to go into the story of why I turned to cannabis. From the moment I was born, my mom heard from my pediatrician that I seemed to be allergic to my own body, but no one had a clue what was causing the problem. I was not properly diagnosed with a condition called Ehlers-Danlos until the age of 54, which is basically inexcusable in my book, and which is one of the reasons I had to take this and turn this into advocacy to try to make a difference for other people diagnosed with this condition. Not only was I diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos, which is a connective tissue disorder, which means your ligaments and tendons become pretty useless as you get older, unless you really work with strengthening the muscles to help hold the frame of your body together. A year later, I was also diagnosed with sarcoidosis, which is granulomas and enlarged lymph nodes. Right now are in my chest. Hopefully aren't going to move out of there. Neither one right now have any cure at this point. On top of this, I've endured 23 surgeries to hold myself together, to get out of a wheelchair that temporarily I'm back in because I've started passing out with no reason, even though I'm on medication for it, but have done a lot of work to move forward. But pain was a serious problem for me, and I didn't know what to do. I was heading out to Wisconsin to get a sternoclavicular reconstruction, which is the bone up by your throat. I went to my primary doctor and said, if this surgery does not work, I'm still teaching, I can't think straight, and nothing's working for pain. If it doesn't work, will you send me for help? And he said, let's not wait, let's get you to the doctor now and see what it is we can do to help you, because this is not a condition that's going to go away with pain. So I went to the pain clinic doctor. Very shortly after I was interviewed by the nurse, she started to ask me if I had children, which I thought was kind of odd. And shortly after she walked out of the room and the doctor walked in, one of the very first questions he said is, do you have children? I said, what do my kids have to do with my pain? And it was basically because he looked at my records and realized there was nothing to offer me. I honestly, from DNA testing, cannot metabolize aspirin, Tylenol, any of the opiates, and the list goes on and on. So all of a sudden, the doctor's looking at me and saying, would you be willing to consider trying cannabis? And if it works, although I had no intent to be part of this program, I will sign the form to get you into the program. Rhode Island has been legal since 2006. In 2007, I was being suggested that I try this, and I literally sat there and laughed at him. I had been brought up to believe that you stayed away from this, and I thought this was ridiculous, but I also was getting desperate on what to do for pain relief. I knew immediately that when I got some product on the side, because at this time we had no dispensaries in our state, the only way to get it was either on the black market or to grow on your own. But growing takes about 3 months from beginning to end, so I didn't have time to wait. So I got some on the black market, to be honest with you, converted it immediately to oil, took a teaspoon, went to my husband that night an hour before bed and said, I just took it thinking I'm going to be crazy because I tried this once in college and I'm not one of those people that likes to feel out of control in my body. I actually don't like that sensation at all. So the one time I tried it in college, smoking it, I spent the afternoon in bed feeling horrible. And so I did not have a very fond memory of this. So shockingly, I took it, went to bed, and the next thing I know, I woke up the next morning. For the first time in absolute months, and possibly years, I had slept through the entire night on one simple teaspoon of cannabis oil. And I could not keep my mouth shut after that. I felt at the age of 67, which I am now, that I needed to share this with other people so that hopefully somebody else out there would also consider trying this and not be afraid of what society has put into our heads. Now, no matter what you do about pain, I just want to mention to you that it's very important to also always remember to reduce inflammation in your body, whatever you're facing, whether it happens to be Ehlers-Danlos like me or whatever MS, whatever condition you have. If you're still doing things with your body that's causing inflammation, that's going to make your pain even worse. So a couple of suggestions that I have found incredibly helpful is a food sensitivity test. People with my condition are very, very sensitive to food, but you don't know what it is. And we're very careful eating off an organic garden and putting good food in, but when I had this test done, all of a sudden I found out things that were coming directly from our wonderful organic garden were actually causing inflammation. And everybody's results are going to be very different, so it's not one size fits all. But simple things like broccoli, tomatoes, potatoes, things that were good foods in my body were causing inflammation. Also, the drug sensitivity testing is priceless. There's a company called Genelex that I've used. My doctor had suggested, because out in Wisconsin they didn't know what to do with me for pain out there, and asked if I'd have that test, and it totally confirmed everything I'd lived with, that I really was horribly reactive. But the beauty of this test is, and I believe every baby should have this done from birth and never have to live through the drug sensitivity testing, that go through the test, all the reactions that we've had to live with. It would be so nice if we just knew from the beginning of our lives what was good and not good to put into the body. But what happens now is if I have to go on medication, I can get in touch with this company. They can look at my DNA results, and they can come back to me and say, yes, that is fine, or no, you may metabolize this instead, and it will do the same thing. So it's something you will have for the rest of your life if you consider using that. Okay, so let me go back to the oil itself. When you take an oil like I do, it's very similar to taking it, and when you ingest, you hear people that use edibles. You need to be very careful when you ingest your medicine. Remember that ingesting medicine, you have to allow time for it to be absorbed before you're going to get pain relief. So when first taken this way, it could take up to a full hour before you're going to actually start to feel effects. Eventually, that will lessen to anywhere from a half hour to 45 minutes before it kicks in. So it's very important when you take it internally like this, plan what time you want to get to bed. I go to bed at 10. I take my medicine at 9, between 9 and 9:25, depending on when I want to make sure I'm in bed. But within a half hour after you take it, you want to be into bed safely and let it do its gentle work. And by gentle, I mean gentle. When you take this oil and you use cannabis, it's not the same as using an opiate that kind of knocks the socks off of you and you feel no pain. This instead calms the body down. It keeps your body, and taking it in an oil way where you're ingesting it in, it's going to stay into your system, and you're going to find, for me, the next day, very rarely do I take any pain medication, because the oil I had taken the night before stays into my system and continues as you continue using this to keep the body calm. I do not get high on this. I was absolutely shocked when I first took this. I didn't get high, you don't get stoned, and looking into this, I realized that when you live with a body in pain, the brain receptors react differently than somebody who's using it socially. So if you and I, if I took it and somebody's taking it socially and took the exact same thing I take, they're going to get high and stoned, and I'm going to get pain relief. Can I get high? Yes. If I take too much, then yes, I will get that sensation, and I never want to feel that. So again, you're going to start with a slow dose, introduce it to your body. I would suggest a quarter of a teaspoon of this oil, and the recipe, by the way, is on the right hand of your screen. It says Ellen's recipe for how to make this. And if you're ingesting, you want to mix this with some type of food, applesauce, yogurt, something. I take a little paper cup, put the oil in there, and then mix a little bit of food in there, you know, stir it around, and take it about an hour before bed. So the goal is, let's see, for sleeping, you take 1 hour before you want to go to bed. It is to eventually, the goal is to sleep through the night, not to wake up groggy. And if you have not slept through the night, and I want you to start slowly if you decide to try this, you introduce it slowly, and then until you've gotten so you've slept the whole night through. If you haven't, the first time you take it, each night add a quarter of a teaspoon more. You do not, if you wake up in the morning and you are groggy, do not panic. It will wear off. You don't have to run to the hospital. It's just going to come out of your system. Just be very careful moving around, and don't take that dose again. Just back it back up. So again, start slow, quarter teaspoon, slowly add more until you've slept through the whole night. Somehow I magically happened to hit my dose the first night, and that was crazy. Don't be concerned if you have to keep upping your dose. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It's okay. Everybody's body's going to require a different amount. There was one point in my life I lived on 4 teaspoons of oil to sleep through the night. I am now using a vector treatment and now down to 1 teaspoon a night. But you'll have that ability to doctor yourself in the sense of increasing or decreasing depending on how your status is and how your body's doing. The benefits I find of using cannabis this way is it's much safer for your lungs to not be smoking the medicine. Here in Rhode Island, which is where I live, we encourage people, if you, instead of smoking, to consider vaporizing, if that is a better way for you to administer this medication. But there is no evidence at this time linking smoking cannabis to lung cancer. But why take a chance and wait for research down the road that might suddenly say that, you know, vaporizing is totally safe. My pulmonologist, with my sarcoidosis in my chest, is thrilled with vaporizing for me. So that is incredibly safe. The other thing is it's much easier this way to store it and to travel with it. We have traveled to legal and illegal states. My oil that's all made is in a medical bottle. It's in a plastic bag inside a checked-in suitcase, sometimes even my carry-on suitcase. And it's never been a hassle. We were, yes, absolutely scared the first time we traveled to Wisconsin. We were waiting for the police dogs to be waiting for us when we got off the plane. Nothing happened. So this is medicine. People don't want to steal your oil. People want the product. So this is a really good way to use it. For many, achieving their true dose can mean less need of medication during the day. It keeps the body calm into the day. We have found that using more than one type of the night plant creates a great sleeping oil. And if you can even get the clippings from these plants, they seem to make a wonderful oil. So just to give you a little education, there are 2 basic types of plants. The day plant, called a sativa, and there's so many different strains and names it will drive you crazy. And then there's a nighttime plant called the indica, and again, tons of different types of those. The difference of those 2 is the indica nighttime plant gives you pain relief and sedation sensation, where you just are going gently, when you get to your right dose, you should be gently just going to sleep. The daytime sativa plants, those strains instead are giving you pain relief and more of a stimulant of helping you to stay awake. So it's very important that when you get medication and you create this into the oil, if you're wanting it for sleep, make sure you get the indica type of plant. And again, when I'm going to show you some pictures in a minute, but if you happen to be lucky enough like us and be able to grow the plant, then the little clippings of leaves that are around the bud itself, don't throw those clippings away. We make topical out of that, we make oil out of that, we make tincture out of that. Those clippings are as valuable as the bud. They are loaded with the THC and the CBD in them, so those are wonderful. Okay, there are many different ways to administer this medication. I happen to love the oil. I also do what's called juicing. If you look at the picture right here, this is a Vexin juicer, and you'll see the big fan leaves that most people just throw away. If you put them through this juicer, you'll see the lovely juice coming down here and the byproduct in the front of the unit there. That juicing, I met a Dr. William Courtney from California years ago. I had just come back from Wisconsin with another leg surgery, and the year before had had the exact same surgery. It took me, and they used a cadaver tendon to get my tibia to hold, my fibula to hold in place. The year before, it took me 10 hours a day with a bone stimulator for 10 months to get the bones to finally heal. I then met Dr. William Courtney at a conference. I learned about the juicing. His office sent me a juicer. I started juicing the leaves because we were lucky enough to be growing right in our home. And I sent the results of my testing back to my surgeon in Wisconsin 3 months later, and I had been juicing and sipping this juice from these big fan leaves at this time. And what I did was I'd make up the juice and mix it with some type of juice that I like, because if you just drink this green juice, trust me, it doesn't have wonderful taste. So I mix something that I like with it, and you sip it 3 or 4 times through the day. 3 months later, I get a call from my doctor's office saying, I'm done, I'm healed, I can take the bone stimulator off. So I went from 10 months to 3 months. Again, that's why I can't keep my mouth shut, and I have to share this in case somebody else can have that success with it. There is incredible healing powers in juicing these big fan leaves. You do not feel anything. You do not get any high. You do not get any sensation at all. You're getting the goodness and the CBD in that cannabis plant through those leaves into your system. So it's really wonderful. We mentioned vaporizing before. You can also convert this and make pops and candies. There's a little sample over on the right of some candies that one of our patients had been using. We make 2 types of tincture. One is a glycerin base. That can be made within an hour in the crock pot. We also make another one that's a schnapps base. That one, you put the clippings or buds into a canning jar. You fill it up with the schnapps that you like, put the top on, shake it once a day for 2 months. It takes a while, then squeeze it all out, and you have your tincture. Tincture is wonderful to use. You put a teaspoon under your tongue or in your cheek. You let it absorb in for 20 seconds, and then you swallow down. That is a wonderful breakthrough relief for daytime for people. Or even if you wake up at night, provided the tincture at night is made from a nighttime plant. Just remember to always distinguish day and night plants. Another one is edibles. I'm sure you've heard about people talk about taking edibles. I have totally stayed away from those. And the thing that I'm really concerned about edibles is if you do not understand using cannabis, you don't understand how much you're getting into your system, you can really get yourself messed up on this. For instance, somebody gives you let's say a cookie with cannabis in it. You take a bite, you feel nothing. You say, ooh, the cookie tastes great. I'm not feeling anything. It's doing nothing. So next thing you know, you've eaten the whole cookie. Well, you haven't felt anything because you're ingesting it in like I do with my oil. It doesn't kick in for 45 minutes to an hour. And if you've eaten that whole cookie, you've probably overdosed yourself with medicine, and you're going to feel like junk for a while. So if you do go for edibles or gummy bears or whatever it is, just start slow and work your way up to what dose and what quantity would be correct. And also be sure to know what type of plant is in that edible. Is it a daytime plant or is it a nighttime? If it's daytime, I take it during the day. If it's a nighttime plant, then I don't want to eat that in the day. I want to eat that in the nighttime. You know, if you take an indica plant that lets you sleep during the day, you're going to be sorry you did it, and it's going to do the opposite of what you wanted. And again, the last option would be smoking, which again, we encourage vaporizing over smoking if you have a choice. Depending on your state, if you can home grow, it's a wonderful way and the cheapest way to get your product. On the right-hand side, you'll see that we take a plant and we kind of bonsai it out. So each stem is going to come up. When you look on the left, you can see it becomes an eventual bud. The right-hand side, top right, is just a small picture of a vegging room, which is the first stage where the lights are on for 17 hours and then off. When I move over to the left-hand side and the plants have gotten tall enough, we are now forcing them into flowering. In that room, the lights are on 12 hours and come off for 12 hours, and that forces the plant into the flowering stage. And the entire process from beginning and end takes about 3 months. It's not a quick thing, so you need to figure out what it is you want to do. Another option, down below, you'll see a greenhouse that's attached to the back of our house, and you'll notice it's not glass that you can look through, yet this substance, this plastic that's on here, radiates the light evenly throughout the entire greenhouse. So we do a greenhouse grow from basically April until October, and that gives us enough medicine to create our oils. And there's many times we are donating because doctors will send people for trying things out, and this gives us that opportunity. Now, how does the medical program work? This is the list that Emily compiled for all of you of the states that are presently legal. There are 29 states, including also the District of Columbia, and hopefully that comes down. I can't see the entire list on my screen. So you want to first of all check out, where does your state stand? You can go to this link right here, click on that, and you'll be able to read if your state is legal or not, and if so, what are the qualifying conditions. And the next step would be, if it looks like you might fit into your state and you are lucky in a state that's legalized, I would suggest the next thing would be to contact the Department of Health. Normally it's through them that you're going to get a form that you download, fill out, and then submit in. But I would call them and just make sure you understand the directions. And also, if you're in a state that's legalized or a state that is not yet, you need to make sure that you have to have qualifying conditions. The list of qualifying conditions can be very limited, which is very, very frustrating. So this is a situation where we're never going to stop quite advocating for our states and trying to keep improving and including everybody that should have the right to be considering this as an option for pain. Now, each state differs in their application process. So you're typically required to have a doctor's note or a medical record. Hey, Shayna, can I get rid of this thing on the right so I can see the rest of my thing? Can you hear it?
Yes. Are you talking about your panel?
Yeah. Good.
Yes. Go ahead. Go ahead and minimize your panel.
Thank you. Okay. There we go. Okay. Thank you. So doctor's note, in Rhode Island, we have a doctor fill a form. It's not a script. They are just confirming that I have a qualifying condition. Not all doctors are comfortable doing that. In Rhode Island, we're allowed to have a doctor. We're such a small state. It can be a doctor from Massachusetts, Connecticut, or Rhode Island, which is very kind of them. And they're just confirming that I have a qualifying condition. If you find that your doctor is not willing to do that, it should be a doctor that's familiar with your condition. The other option we've been very lucky and worked hard to advocate for is we have now 3 places you can go to that are real doctors working. You pay, the difference is when I go to my doctor to get my form signed every year or 2, I just pay a copay for that visit. If that doesn't work, then the other option would be for me to pay $150 to go to this, like one of them is B&B Consultants, there's Canacare. You make an appointment, you bring your medical records, they go through that, and those doctors can decide if you do or not fit into that program, and they can sign it. The only difference is you pay for that appointment, but at least you've gotten yourself into the program. So you just have, it would be great if you could just find a doctor that knows you and is willing to listen and be open. Dispensaries can be helpful. They can give you tips on the application process. they might even be able to help you within your state and where you could turn to get a person to take you seriously and to consider letting you give this a try. It says generally an out-of-pocket cost associated with being certified by a doctor and registering with the state. At this time, no insurers cover medical cannabis. I believe it's the only place that is covering it so far that I'm aware of is wait a minute, my mind's just going blank. I'm sorry, I haven't been feeling wait a minute, let me go back here. Is Germany, I believe, just very recently made it a law that people using cannabis for medical reasons are actually getting covered by their insurance. So that's our dream for the future. First, we have to have every state having this option. So how do we advocate for access if your state doesn't have a program or if you do not qualify? First, you want to Google your state, and here's a site you can go to and become familiar again where your state stands. And this site is wonderful. It tells you what the qualifying conditions are, whether you can grow or not, how much medication you're allowed to have on you, how much you have to put away, and so on. It's a very wonderful site to start with. Second, they're coming in. Excuse me one second. What? What? What about it? We have to find somebody to be in the house. I'm so sorry. I have an appointment to get to, and we have a mattress being delivered, and we just suddenly realized we have to find somebody to come over. I'm so sorry. Okay, number 2. If a bill has been submitted, find the name or the names of those that have submitted it. So you want to get connected with the person who's interested in your state of being open and considering getting this bill into your state. Get in touch with them. Number 3, contact the state legislators that submitted the bill and do one or all of the following. Consider requesting a meeting. Sit down one-to-one. As we've learned through the Pain Foundation, your personal story means the world to people. They will listen to you, and it will leave a permanent impression. I started doing this years ago. As soon as I became a patient, next thing I know, I was down at the State House advocating and speaking up. And it's actually kind of funny. They don't remember me as much as they remember my husband pushing me in a wheelchair and my service dog, Maggie. They always remember Maggie. And the state legislators know us well enough to say, oh my gosh, is it marijuana day? Because they just remember what's going on. Leave a phone message. Write a letter. Offer to testify. If I write a letter to them directly, or you can write a letter to your local papers. But speak up and get the ball rolling. And if they know you're there and available to them, that will be very helpful. The goal is to begin to establish that relationship with this person, to let them know your story and your willingness to help in any way. And trust me, your story will touch their heart. You will find that telling your story is the key. So try to find others who will also be able to share their condition and how using this medication helped them too. Share the condition and how it affects your daily life, and how using medical cannabis in the past has made a big difference. Remember, however, if you're in an illegal state sharing your success with medical cannabis, you want to share the success you had while living or visiting a legal state. Do not set yourself up for being arrested by saying, I'm sitting at home in this illegal state using cannabis and it's wonderful. So protect yourself. Be careful with the use of words. And if you're able to attend a meeting, be sure to dress like you're going to work. Keep the language clean and show them that you are just a typical everyday person just trying to live life with major medical difficulties. And you do not want to be perceived as a person who's just a recreational drug user. And they will totally respect this. If they want you to come testify again, your demeanor matters. Show them that you are their family, their neighbor, their friend, in the need of safe pain relief. Be on your best behavior and educate them. Prepare your speech before you arrive. Remember that they have time limits when you go to testify. Consider putting your main points on a card to talk from instead of reading, because eye contact goes a long way. So just put the main focuses of what you want to make sure you cover on that little card. And then stay on point. Your time is limited, and you must respect this, or they will shut you off and allow the next person to their time slot. It's horrible when it happens. It's frustrating. The other thing you can do if you're afraid you're going to go over in time and you don't get to finish is take a copy of what you're speaking about print it out in sentence form, and submit it to the group that's sitting there that's listening to you, and that will help to get the rest of your story out. And make sure you state your name and address as you give your testifying. Share your medical condition, a description of what this condition has been doing to your daily living. Share how cannabis has made life more tolerable than in the past, and ask them to have a heart and help you and all the people in your state. And I always end with this, and I look at them in their eyes and I say, you know, none of you sitting there know what life might bring to you next either. I didn't ask to have to cope with these conditions. Please show your compassion, because it's true. Nobody knows what's coming next. And advocate for the right wording, along with sharing your story as to why this would help improve the quality of your life. You also need to discuss what the qualifying conditions are in the bill that's being proposed. There's no way that they will ever include listing every possible condition that's out there that's causing pain. So we need to make sure, for us, particularly in this foundation, that your state in some wording has severe, debilitating, chronic pain, one of those categories that you can fit into. If you don't get the wording in there for chronic pain, many will not qualify. There was a couple of years that I believe was the state of Michigan had set up a medical program. They did not include chronic pain, and they couldn't understand why more people weren't signing on. Once recently they added that wording in there for chronic pain, it opened up the floodgates for so many people to get the relief that they needed. Other ways you can advocate: if you have no bill submitted at the present time, then your work will be a bit different. You need to look back and see if a bill you've submitted that never made it through, and locate the name of that person. Again, you would want to contact that person who initially had tried and it failed, or persons, and tell them that you're ready to help them advocate again and ask what they need from you. Don't give up just because it fizzled away. It can take years and frustration. It's not a fun process, but in time you're going to win, because this country is so desperate for another option with the opiate crisis we have right now, and cannabis is just sitting right in front of us and waiting for us to use. Whether you have a bill submitter or working to get one started, you want to keep the topic alive in the media, so write those letters to the editor. Send a written story to the news stations and radio stations. Tell them you would like to share your story and why you want to see this legalized. You will be surprised how they can respond. It will open up a floodgate of opportunities. So here we are. I have no idea what time it is, but I'd like to thank you for listening, and if you have any questions.
Sure. So, Ellen, I've been monitoring the questions that are coming through. So if you wouldn't mind, I'll just quickly state those right now. Somebody had asked, did you mention the name of the daytime plant?
I didn't mention, I mentioned the name of the daytime strain. It's called sativa, S-A-T-I-V-A, sativa. So those are daytime plants. Now there's many, many different names of sativas. Then there's the nighttime, which is the indica, I-N-D-I-C-A, and those are the nighttime plants. So they do the opposite of each other. They both give pain relief. Sativa gives pain relief and a slight stimulant to stay awake. The opposite with indica, pain relief, and gives you more of sedation feeling. So you don't want to mix those. Now there's many hybrids that are a cross between both. So the hard, confusing thing is to understand is that everybody's body, if we all listening had the exact same condition and you all took exactly what I took, it would not necessarily be your magic. Everybody's body is going to crave a different type of plant. So do not give up. If you, let's say, vaporize something, you try it and it didn't do it for you, do not give up. Just try another strain. Keep trying the strains. Now, for my nighttime oil, I have found that people seem to do well with the oil when we take a few strains and get the benefits of a few of them together to create the oil. Or you can just pick one strain and create the oil of that. But does that answer that, Shana?
Yes, I think so. So
Okay.
somebody else wrote that medical cannabis obviously works for some. What about those with a heart condition, heart disease, or even vascular EDS?
I have not heard of anybody that hasn't had some form of success with this. What was the first condition you said? I'm sorry.
Heart disease?
Okay. I kind of have some of that issues going on. I have a lot of different things happening and haven't had a problem. I have a man that wrote me down from Florida that is trying the oil right now, who has, I'll just share this. He said he stopped all opiates, cold turkey, started cannabis. He was on blood pressure medicine, stopped the medication. One day after he noticed he was really getting cold, and took his pressure and found out all of a sudden his pressure had gone down, so he's off his blood pressure medication. His levels have leveled out. He has zero muscle spasms, zero seizures, and he's now working on migraines also just using this oil. He's gone off tramadol, hydrocodone, oxycodone, and 5 other medications. So I would not be afraid to try this no matter what your circumstances are. There's never been a case, and I'm not making this up, you can look it up, there's never been a case of somebody dying from using cannabis. This is a safe, although we haven't been led to believe it, it's very safe. The key is to not overdose yourself and to start slowly. Okay?
Great. So what can you tell us about the efficacy of CBD oil, like hemp oil, without THC content for the treatment of chronic pain?
It can't hurt you. It's wonderful. It's very similar to how I juice the leaves and get the CBD out of those leaves. It's great for you. Will it cover your pain? It's going to depend on your body. When I first was sent to NIH and they realized I was taking nothing for pain, they put me on Marinol, which is a synthetic of cannabis. It's not really cannabis, but they use it as a substitute. And it was so funny when I first took it, the doctor was shocked and I said, oh my heavens, I'm getting pain relief. She said, what? And she hadn't expected that. And it didn't last, but it was just that my body had nothing, that it initially acted like it was helping. I think what you're going to find at first is it might actually give you some pain relief. In the long term, it may not continue to do that. It's legal across the country. If you get plain CBD, it means it has no THC, so that's hemp. That's legal. You have nothing to lose from trying that. If it does not succeed with getting rid of pain, then you're going to want to not be scared to go into the actual cannabis plant itself. You can pick a plant that's a regular plant or one that's a little higher in the CBD and a little bit less THC. You might want to start with that type of plant first. And if that still is not enough pain relief, then go up into the regular plants that have a more of a mix of the THC. Okay?
Excellent. So somebody else has a concern about being labeled or stereotyped and potentially affecting the care that they receive. So in those states that are illegal right now, do you have any suggestions for if or how to begin a conversation with doctors?
Did you say in an illegal state?
Correct, in an illegal state.
I think it's, all this is about education. We just need to, I actually was supposed to be speaking with my health issues, speaking in Nevada. I actually received, Shane, I didn't tell you this, an email, Facebook message from a doctor down there who was an orthopedic surgeon. I quickly deleted it, and now I wish I hadn't because I should have responded to him, basically saying to me that he was going to come to my event and have me rated, which is just ridiculous. So that's just a person, that's just a person who is not educated. So I'm so sorry, my husband just stepped out. So I think instead of getting turned off and getting angry, we need to educate those people that don't get it. I would go into a doctor's appointment, share, I don't know, Shane, if you can give them my website to the, we have a website that has many, many articles in it. Eventually it's going to be put on the Pain Foundation website. But it's listed with articles specifically for each condition too. And we've gotten some really excellent articles there. Download some of those articles, take them in with your appointment, ask them if they would just please consider reading these, and ask them if they consider this for the future for you and maybe even help you advocate. It takes that special doctor who's willing to do it. You might have more success with the state legislator first before the doctors, because they get a little paranoid until their state becomes legal, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's a great point to make. And the website that Ellen was referring to is on the U.S. Pain's website. We do have a link to that,
oh,
and
good.
we'll see. Yes, and we'll see if we can make that link available to everyone that's here. Someone else said that they're going to be in a legal state for 4 days. They're actually going to Denver, Colorado, and they don't know what to try or where to start. Can you recommend a specific product to try? And I'm guessing that, and I'm not sure if this individual um, qualifies in their state and they're traveling or not.
Gotcha.
So would that depend on the answer?
Um, I've heard of people. I have a letter here. We had more time. I read from a woman who has a daughter with my condition in Florida that drove her daughter before she chose to consider taking her life to Colorado. They somehow very easily walked into one of the distribution centers and came out with medication. By the time they were driving home, the daughter, who was ready to literally take her life, and promised her mother she would try this before she did, tried cannabis, and by the time they were on their way home, she was out of her wheelchair walking, feeling such pain relief. So they were able to get it in Colorado. I honestly don't know exactly how that works, but it sounds like it's pretty free to be able to walk into a store. If you're going to try it for the first time, I would make sure you get either something like higher CBD plant, just to give it a shot. And I would personally, I would encourage you to try vaporizing it or convert it into the oil as we do, and just take it slowly. Don't overdo it. Take a very small amount. Take a hit on the vaporizer. Give it 20 minutes. See how it feels. If more pain comes back in, then take another hit. It's not like you take a joint and you smoke the whole thing. You don't do it that way. This is medicine, so you slowly get it into your body. Does that help?
Yes. And somebody else says that they're not able to actually tolerate sativa or any of the hybrid strains because it causes them anxiety. So what would you recommend for daytime for those individuals who have that type of reaction?
Okay, two specific plants I can think of: ACDC, ACDC, those letters, or Canatonic. Those are both very high CBD daytime plants. I would they're almost hemp. They're that hot. I would try those and see if you have some success with that instead.
Okay, great. And somebody else writes that medical marijuana obviously has been able to replace a lot of prescription medications for individuals, but you did mention it's not covered by insurance. So do you know if some of the states will offer programs to help maybe offset those costs for medical cannabis or CBD?
I know in our state of Rhode Island, recently had a gentleman who came out to our house with his wife who has stage 4 cancer. When I called the Compassion Center to see if I could get them an appointment to speak to one of the, you'll find that distribution centers are generally incredibly helpful. And when they went to this center, because she's on stage 4 cancer, pancreatic cancer, and doesn't have long to live, they actually handed her her medication to take home. So you're going to find compassion depending on what the circumstances are. If you have the option of having a caregiver grow for you, you will find that that's cheaper than going even to the centers. But get educated, be honest with these people, tell them what your financial status is, and see, many of them have a sliding scale, but I can't speak for all states.
Okay. And then back to individuals who use, prescriptions, particularly those that are a little bit more potent, like Percocet, for example. Is it okay to use CBD oil if you are also taking those types of medications, or are they mutually incompatible?
Very compatible, not a problem. And those of you that are on pain medication itself, you're going to find that you're going to wean away from that pain medication as you continue on with cannabis. There are really no, and I'm not saying this as a know-it-all at all, we've listened to many doctors speaks, there are not indications of interreactions between medications, really. So, what you'll want to do is wean away from the other, and if the cannabis is working for you, stay on that and just wean down the other. That makes sense.
Okay, great. And just moving to, I guess, an advocacy question, or more at the advocacy level, does medical cannabis have to be legal at the federal level in order for all of these state bills and programs to be valid?
I'm sorry, Shana, could you repeat that? My husband just was talking in my ear. I'm sorry. What was that?
Sure. No, that's fine. Does medical cannabis have to be legalized at the federal level in order for these state bills and programs to be valid?
No. Right now, it is that the states are supposed to be left alone, and your job as an individual citizen is to follow the law within your state. If you do that, you should be safe in your state. It's only the people that ever get in trouble in our state are those that are abusing it. If we're following the law that's established, then you should be okay. And I would not get concerned about that.
Someone who resides in Maryland says that medical cannabis has been legal for over 4 years now, but the state still has no dispensaries available. So what about states that have this issue? How would you combat that?
We had that issue for years in Rhode Island. That's why I had to go in the black market originally and had to become a home grower. That's where you have to get working on advocating and just get in there and get in touch with those people that are trying to get that established in your state and make yourself available to them and get your story out, because you need to get it now, not tomorrow. And put the guilt on them. Again, ask them what would they do if they were in your shoes. You didn't ask for what happened to you in your life, and you need help now, not 4 years from now. And we went through the exact same thing. That's why we became home growers.
Great answer. Someone else says that they're from Oregon, where cannabis is legal for medicinal and recreational use, but nevertheless, their pain doctor has a ban on cannabis use by his clients because of legal risks, probably to his practice. So do you have any advice for the doctor or for the patient, since that patient now has to choose between the multidisciplinary services of this pain clinic and trial of cannabis products for chronic pain?
Well, I would probably consider getting to a different doctor, getting away from that clinic if that's how that doctor feels. And also the other option is to take these articles off our website and educate its doctor. But if that's how they feel, you know, you have your life to take care of right now. I think you need to take care of yourself, and maybe you're going to need to find a different pain clinic that's going to be more compatible. And I would go to a distribution center to ask them if they could help you, direct you to the right direction.
Okay.
Shana?
Yes.
I have an appointment. I suddenly got that I've got to run to. I'm so sorry.
Nope, that's fine. Actually, that was the last question. So, yep, if anyone else would like to touch base with you, Ellen, is it okay for them to send an email to that address that you provided?
Absolutely. I'd appreciate that. If you'll forgive me, I got to go, okay?
They're great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye,
guys.
That's okay.
Bye.
Bye. And thank you for everyone who joined us this afternoon. A few of you have asked us privately if this will be made available for you afterwards. We do record all of our calls and webinars, and so we will be making that available for everyone who has joined us this afternoon. And just give us a little bit of time to make that recording available to everyone. And again, just a reminder that we did provide a handout today. That was Ellen's recipe for her oil that should be made available as a handout to you all. So with that, thank you, and we hope that you will participate in our future bi-monthly calls.